Hello, this is Michael Kraut with Idea Dudes, and we're going to be talking about fundamentals of backup and restore.
The unauthorized reproduction or distribution of this copyrighted work is illegal. Criminal copyright infringement, including infringement without monetary gain, is investigated by the FBI and is punishable by up to 5 years in federal prison and a fine of $250,000.
If you have any questions or comments, you have the GoGo box at the bottom of the video. Let's get started. So in this module, we're going to be talking about backup utility. And the backup utility, this is actually based on backup exec. Now, backup exec is a utility or one of the premier backup programs out there. Now, during Windows Server 2003, it was still available, but it's not available anymore because Norton still, or Symantec, owns it. So the backup utility that we have here in Windows Server 2003 is going to be the backup exec Lite. Now, we're going to talk about what to backup, scheduling a backup, talk about the scheduled job, backup types, restoring data, and we have lab exercises. So the backup utility is found underneath our accessories and system tools. Now, when you start up the backup utility, you'll notice that it always starts in wizard mode with the checkbox. What we should do is uncheck that, because what we can do, we can go into the advanced mode. Now, if you just want to go through a wizard and just click on next and get next happy, hey, it's up to you. But if you want to be able to get into the advanced mode, then we uncheck it, the always start in wizard mode. But this is what starts when you start up the backup and restore wizard for the first time. So when we go up to backup and restore wizard, you can see we're in using just the wizard itself. What do you want to back up? So backup files and settings, and we can also restore files and settings. So it's asking you, what do you want to do? So it's a pretty easy program to go through. Just follow the wizard, and it'll ask you questions, you answer the questions. So what do you want to do? Backup files and settings, that's what we're going to do. Now, what to back up? What do you want to back up? All information on this computer, or let me choose what to back up? Now, when you do let me choose what to back up, then we can select things such as your system state. We can select different folders, and we can select full hard drives. Or we can just say all information, and what it's going to do is it's going to include all data on this computer and create the system recovery disk that you can use to restore Windows in case of a major failure. So what we did is we went into Let Me Choose. Now when we go into Let Me Choose, that's where we can see all the different items that we can back up. So we got 3.5-inch floppy, we have the local CD drive, we have our DVD, system state. System state is very important because this is going to have all of the information that we need for Windows Server 2003, especially like the registry, COM+, our IS. If we have certificate services on there, it's also going to be backed up there. If you have Active Directory, then it's going to back up the sysvol, the ntds.dit file, which is located under Windows, and some of the other things such as your DTC. So there's a lot of information that's backed up with the system state. So a system state is probably going to be one of the most important backups that you do. And this is what's going to allow us to be able to recover the operating system. So the backup type and destination and name, you choose the place to save your backup. So we're going to put it in our C:\backup, and we're just going to call this test backup. Click on next. Now, at this point, we're ready to do the backup. But what we can do is we can also go into our advanced. When we go into the advanced, this is where we can select which type of backup that we want to do. A normal, a copy, incremental, differential, or daily. And we'll be talking about each one of these in a few minutes. And we can back up migrated remote storage data. And that's when we go into our computer management, we have remote storage there. We can schedule the backup. So when do you want to make the backup? Now or later? Remember, this is underneath the advanced, so you want to make sure when you're going through the backup wizard, you don't get next happy, because if you get next happy, then you're going to go right past the advanced section. So if we want to schedule it, what we can do is we can schedule it for a later time, and we can have this a recurring schedule. So how to back up? Verify the data after backup. This is one of the things I do all the time, because you want to make sure when you're doing a backup that the data that is being backed up or the backup is getting everything that you asked for, and also that it's not corrupted. So what it'll do is it'll back it up, and then it's going to take and it's going to compare the backup file with the actual data to make sure there isn't any corruption. The backup options, we can append to the backup or we can replace the existing. So if we're going to append, that's an ongoing type of backup. Replace, that's going to erase what's there and copy on top of it. So going back and looking at the scheduled job, we have schedule, and you can see we can do daily, we can do weekly, monthly, once at system startup, at logon. We can also back up when the system is idle. So when nobody's working on it or anything, we can have it constantly backing up the system. And when we look at the advanced schedule options, we can repeat the task we can put until a certain time, how often do we want, or what's the duration of it, and when is this going to start, and we can also set an end date. Then we go into our settings, scheduled task completed. What can you do with this? Well, what we can do is say we only wanted to do this once or twice. What we can do is we can stop it or after so many hours if it's constantly running. We can delete the task if it's not scheduled to run again. When idle time, only start the task if the computer has been idle for how many minutes. If the computer has not been idle, retry up to how many minutes. And stop the task if the computer ceases to be idle. Power management, don't start the task if the computer is running on batteries. This will be, for example, for laptops. Stop the task if the battery mode begins. And wake the computer to run the task. And so this is if we have like a screensaver on. What we can do is we can make it so that the idle time is set. But wake the computer, this would be an example. We turn the computer off or we put it into sleep. Once it gets to the backup routine, the backup schedule, it's time to back it up. What it'll do is wake up the machine and bring it out of sleep and complete the task. So you can see here's the backup in process, preparing to back up using shadow copy, and we'll talk about shadow copy later on. And then it'll have what is the progress, and it'll give you time and how many files and bytes have been processed. So looking at the different types of backups, remember we're on a tab and it had the different types of backups. We have normal backup, archive attribute is cleared. All files are backed up regardless of the archive attribute. You have to have a normal backup before you can do an incremental. An incremental backup, the backup's files that have changed since the last normal backup. And restore queries requires restoring of normal plus each incremental. So here's an example. We do a backup on Friday. We do incrementals on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We have a failure on Thursday. Well, to get the system back up and to where it needs to be, we'll have to restore Friday plus Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and that will get us back up to where we need to be. Then we have a differential. Now, differentials, this is going to be the fastest restore, but it does become longer when we get into the backup because it doesn't clear the archive bit. It's the fastest restore, backs up only files that have changed since the last normal or incremental backup. Restore requires restoring normal plus the DAS differential. So going back to our previous example. So we do a full on Friday. We do a differential on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We have a failure on Thursday. So we take Friday plus Wednesday to get back to where we need to be. Copy backups does not use the archive attribute. It's the other type of backup that we have and used to move data from one server to another. Daily backups are all selected files and folders that are changed on the day based on the modification date. The archive attribute is not changed. So, after we've done a backup and say we have a failure, remember we had that failure on Friday or Thursday? Well, what we do is we go into our Restore Wizard. We go into Restore and Manage Media. And from there, we can select what is going to be our restore that we're going to, the backup that we want to restore. So you can see the test backup.bkf, which was created on 5/26/2010. So we would select it, and then we have the ability of restoring files to the original location, or we can also send it to an alternate location, and we can also send it to a single folder. And what we need to do is, a lot of people don't understand this, that when you do a backup, you need to do a test restore. Because what happens if the restore doesn't work? You have a failure, you have this backup, and you're thinking, oh, I got this backup, I can now restore it. And the restore fails. Then what's going to happen? Well, you're going to have to go to another backup a couple weeks later and try to restore it, or the last time you had another backup. Here's an example. I did some consulting for a company in Northeast Florida. I set up a backup of the SQL Server to automatically back up every 2 hours. Now, this was going on for months. All of a sudden, I get a call from the director of data processing. And he tells me that the restore of the SQL Server failed. I asked him, did you do a test restore? Nope. Well, what happened is he had backed up using a regular backup was 2 weeks later or earlier. So he ended up losing 2 weeks of data. So the moral of the story is back up and then do a test restore. The test restore is going to make sure you don't have a lot of gray hairs. So one of the things that we can do is we can also go in to the restore and go into restore options. And in the backup utility, when we go into tools and options, we have the restore options. When restoring a file that is already on the computer, do not replace the file on my computer, this is recommended. Replace the file on a disk only if the file on the disk is older. And always replace the file on the computer. So those are the options that we can set. So you got to practice. Exercise 1 is create sample data. Exercise 2, perform a normal backup. Exercise 3, perform a differential backup. Exercise 4, perform an incremental backup. This is going to take you about 60 minutes. Also, you have another practice restoring the data. You're going to verify backup and restore procedures. Do you have any questions? Use the question comment box. Thanks for joining us.